Emerging technologies are transforming the healthcare industry as we know it. Investors, say hello to H-Tech, a portfolio dedicated to capturing the significant growth potential of healthcare innovation. Learn more at roboglobal.com/HTEC.
Football represents something we are.
Football is like life. You gotta push.
Fantasy football is about proving that you are better than your friends.
Hold up.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Faceoff.
I'm gonna do what's best for the team.
Where fantasy meets reality.
Pure fantasy football nirvana.
And now your hosts.
Let the games begin.
Anthony Cervino and Michael Hoff.
And welcome back to the FF Faceoff, where fantasy meets reality. It is always great to have you with us for an absolutely loaded NFL news and rumors roundup edition of the most dynamic fantasy football podcast on the planet, which is now part of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. And as always, we have a lot to talk about right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best in the world!
Coming to you live from the FF Faceoff studio at the beautiful Jersey Shore, I am your host, Anthony Cervino. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. And while you're at it, don't forget to follow the show at the FF Faceoff as well. You can find us on all of the top social media platforms. If you're coming to us right now on YouTube, Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitter, or Twitch, welcome to the big show. And if you're joining us right now in podcast format, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon Alexa, TuneIn, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, thanks for stopping by. But before we get into the action, here is a public service announcement from His Lordship.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
All right, guys, you know the drill. If you like today's episode and subscribe to the channel, please leave us a comment saying that you have subscribed. And once you're done, we will reply back to as many as we can to show our appreciation to you. Like I always like to remind you, we are a cost-free production here at the FF Faceoff, but just because we're a cost-free production doesn't mean that a lot of time doesn't go into our efforts, speaking in terms of pre-production, post-production, and research. And because we do bring you cost-free programming, all we ask for in return are for some cost-free engagements to help us grow our fan base and our community. Anytime somebody likes an episode, anytime somebody subscribes and hits the alert icon so you can be notified anytime that we are live or upload. Anytime somebody gives us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Anytime somebody shares our content or tells their friends and family and everybody they know about the FF Faceoff, it not only helps us grow, but it never, ever, ever goes unnoticed. We see everything that you do to help us grow this great podcast that we bring to you as much as we can. And before I forget, if you ever want to skip the public service announcement and jump to a certain segment or talking point, all you have to do is go down into the description and check out the timestamps. And if you're using a mobile device or a podcast platform, the timestamps will not work. They only work for YouTube desktop. However, just because they don't work, the link doesn't work, all you have to do is open up your video or podcast window player and drag the bar to the time that you want to go to. Everybody wins. And of course, the timestamp links don't work on a mobile device. That is not our problem. That is a YouTube problem. Please take it up with them and not us.
And that's an order.
And now that that's all out of the way, let's get right into some of the biggest news and headlines from around the NFL. All right, so today we are going to talk a little bit of NFL news. And of course, the top headline is Ezekiel Elliott. And Ezekiel Elliott met with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell today on Tuesday, the 2nd of July in the year 2019. And following the meeting, we saw at NFL Network's Mike Garafolo tweet out a post from Ezekiel Elliott basically apologizing for his poor decision-making and saying that he is going to make it a point to do better moving forward. Per Garafolo, it looks like Ezekiel Elliott is going to avoid a suspension, which I believe is the right thing, because Ezekiel Elliott was detained. He was handcuffed, but he was released without charges. There shouldn't be a suspension here, especially with the latest reports that suggest that Tyreek Hill, after everything that happened with him, and we know that, hey, maybe he didn't commit the true crime of breaking his son's arm. But we do know that there is an issue there somewhere. We do know that a crime was committed, despite the fact that he is not getting charged by the authority, and the NFL might only give him 4 games. A couple of years ago, Ezekiel Elliott, similar situation, he said, she said, he got hit with 6 games. So if Zeke got hit with any type of ban in this scenario, I believe heads are going to roll, and the conspiracy theorists, including myself, are going to begin putting the pieces to a puzzle together. And that puzzle likely means that, hey, Roger Goodell has it out for Zeke and Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, and Roger Goodell might not want to suspend, or at least he might not want to hang Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill is a number 1 wide receiver to whom? Pat Mahomes. And who is Pat Mahomes? Well, Pat Mahomes is the NFL's new golden boy. And the NFL and the NFL's ratings, while Pat Mahomes is playing at MVP-like levels, that's good for the NFL. So why would you want to take away his best weapon? So if Zeke got suspended and the conspiracy theorists, their wheels began to turn, these are the type of things that you are going to hear, because we are already hearing it. I don't believe Ezekiel Elliott is going to pick up a suspension. I believe it is the right move by the NFL, and that's pretty much it. Unless we hear otherwise, we are going to continue drafting Ezekiel Elliott, at least one of the top 3 picks. And I hold the 101 in my Scott Fishbowl 9 division right now. And I am heavily leaning towards taking Ezekiel Elliott. And tomorrow, Mike will be back. Mike had a little bit of a issue with his health today, so we postponed today's SFB9 mock draft until tomorrow. And I'm going to be drafting from my 101 spot, and it's probably going to be Ezekiel Elliott. And the only other player that I'd consider is Christian McCaffrey.
You can't handle the truth.
So for anybody considering taking Ezekiel Elliott, whether you're in the Scott Fishbowl, whether you're in a season-long league, Zeke is my 101 in every format, possibly outside a dynasty in which you can clearly make the case for a Saquon Barkley or a Christian McCaffrey. Moving on, Geronimo Allison, one of my guys. His teammate and stud wide receiver, Devontae Adams, told the press that he believes Geronimo Allison will be, and I quote, dangerous in the new offense. Adams said that Allison is the guy who's been working a lot in the slot, and he's used to play a little bit more on the outside, but this is making him a little bit more dynamic. Geronimo Allison has been a player I've been enamored with since he came into the league. He's flash, and then he would get hurt. He'd flash, and then he'd get hurt. And then last season, we saw a heavier involvement from Geronimo Allison until, again, an injury or injuries derailed his campaign. Geronimo Allison is healthy. He is reportedly turning heads at Packers camp. Last year, despite only playing in 5 games, he averaged 12.5 fantasy points per game, caught 20 balls of 30 targets, 303 yards, couple of scores, 2 total touchdowns. If Geronimo Allison can play a full 16-game season, I believe he has breakout written all over him. I know that Marquez Valdez-Scantling is being touted as the team's wide receiver 2 right now, and that's fine because MVS himself flashed a little bit last year. But Allison has been around longer, and I can't hammer this home enough. If you think back to the reports that came out about Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, and it came out and said Aaron Rodgers didn't like targeting the young guys. He likes familiar faces. He likes guys that have been in the offense. Well, aside from Davante Adams, the next most tenured pass catcher is Geronimo Allison. So the only thing stopping Geronimo Allison from becoming a breakout player, from becoming a possibly a receiver with wide receiver 2 fantasy football upside, is a groin strain, a hamstring strain, a concussion, all injuries he dealt with last year that caused him to miss 11 games. Geronimo Allison is, if I'm not taking Davante Adams, and I'm going to take another Packers wideout later in the draft, right now Geronimo Allison's ADP, it is a little bit high, 12th pick in the 8th round, fringe 9th round pick. He's the guy I'm probably taking. Valdez-Scantling is going in the 10th round, early in the 10th, second pick in the 10th in PPR scoring formats. I'm a big MVS guy, but I like Allison a lot more. He was a player that I had on my teams last year. It looked like it was going well, and then it quickly faded following the injuries. I'm all over Geronimo Allison in 2019. Next up on the slate, Josh Doctson, Redskins receiver, bust wide receiver, bust first-round pick, believes he will be a free agent in 2020. I mean, can you say anything else but no kidding? The Redskins aren't going to exercise the 5th-year option for a player that hasn't done much at all since being drafted a couple of years ago. All we've heard is Josh Doctson can do this, and he's going to break out, and he's going to get an opportunity. And albeit Doctson, his rookie year, missed 14 games with an injury, didn't do much coming back. But then he had back-to-back years in 2017 and 2018. Only missed 1 game combined in those 2 seasons. Saw back-to-back years of 78 targets. And all he could do with it in 2017, caught 35 for 502 and 6. And then last year, talk about a big-time regression after showing a sign of life. Caught 44 of 78, 2 touchdowns of 532 yards. Averaged 2 fewer yards per catch, went from 14.3 in 2017 to 12.1. And then from 6 touchdowns to 2, I know the regression a lot had to do with the quarterback issues. I mean, going from Kirk Cousins to whatever the hell they had on the field last year, Alex Smith, Colt McCoy, signing guys off the street. It wasn't good. But another thing that wasn't good was Josh Doctson. Moving on, another player that just, I don't get it, is Donta Foreman. Donta Foreman is another player that can't seem to stay on the field. Always dealing with something, but it seems like no matter what he's dealing with, in the offseason, he's being talked up like he's going to take Lamar Miller's job. And Lamar Miller is one of the most consistent backs. We talked about Lamar Miller with Mike a few shows ago. Check it out in the archive. And we made a bet where I believe Lamar Miller, Mr. Unsexy Consistency, will outperform Tevin Coleman in a crowded backfield. Now, a lot can change. Injuries can happen in San Francisco. But right now, as things stand, I believe Lamar Miller is going to be the guy. Lamar Miller has had over 1,000 yards and 6 total touchdowns in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight years dating back to 2014 when he was in Miami. And his 2 worst fantasy finishes in 2016 and 2018, he didn't play in all 16 games. He missed 2 games apiece, which could have helped his cause. Lamar Miller is the guy, and I'm pulling up the ADP right now for Lamar Miller. And it's disrespectful. Let's go there first. I mean, for a player that shows that type of consistency, fringe top 20 running back every year, playing on a really good offense that passes the ball a ton, opens up running lanes, active in a passing game, 11 pick in the 6th round, could go in the 7th. Are you kidding me? People could take Latavius Murray, who has Alvin Kamara in front of him, and Rashad Penny, who has Chris Carson in front of him, over Lamar Miller, Mr. Unsexy Consistency. And that's my nickname for Lamar Miller. Unsexy Consistency. But unsexy consistency is what helps you win fantasy football championships more than, where is this guy? Where is Donta Foreman? 3rd pick, 9th round. He is going around 2 rounds later than unsexy consistency Lamar Miller. Oh, Donta Freeman, 11 career games. Played in 11 games. He missed the rest with injury. Now he's being talked up once again. Texans running back coach Danny Barrett is telling the press that Foreman is light years ahead of where he was last year. In terms of what? Light years ahead in his recovery from the Achilles, light years ahead in the offense. I mean, I don't get it. I'm not touching him. I'm not falling into this trap again. I'll tell you that. If I'm going to buy in any Texans running back not named Lamar Miller, I mean, they have a couple, undrafted free agent Karen Higdon, who you can have for absolutely nothing in your dynasty draft, absolutely nothing in your rookie draft. And if you're in a 30-round best ball league at the FFWC, one of those deep best balls, take Karen Higdon, because he is a Lamar Miller injury away. Or better yet, he is a Donta Foreman injury away from being an RB2 on this offense, because there's really nothing else at the position. It's Lamar Miller or bust for the Houston Texans running backs as we stand right now. Moving ahead, a little bit more troubled running back news from the other day. Kareem Hunt, the Cleveland Plain Dealer reporting, Hunt was questioned outside of a Cleveland bar on Saturday night. No charges were filed. It looks like no charges, no police report, no evidence, no video, no documentation that can correlate Kareem Hunt to any incident at the bar/nightclub. The bar owner states that he was unaware of any physical altercation. With his track record, if anything comes up in the future, Kareem Hunt is done. He will be suspended indefinitely. He is already going to serve an 8-game ban stemming from last year's incident. So should anything come out of this, he could be done indefinitely, especially for the rest or all of the 2019 season. But right now, it doesn't look like anything is here. So because nothing is here, we have to continue drafting Kareem Hunt like he is going to return after his 8-game ban, and we have to draft him like, especially if we believe he is going to return to a role. I get all the Nick Chubb love, but Kareem Hunt is an excellent pass catcher. Something that we haven't seen Nick Chubb do a lot of. I get Duke Johnson is there, but Duke Johnson isn't happy. He's disgruntled. He wants out of Cleveland. I believe the only reason why Duke Johnson remains a Cleveland Brown is because of Kareem Hunt's suspension. If Kareem Hunt was able to line up on the field in week 1, I believe Duke Johnson would have been traded a long time ago. So when Kareem Hunt returns from his suspension, I fully expect, and it's going to happen right around the trade deadline, I expect Duke Johnson to be moved out of Cleveland by or at the 2019 NFL trade deadline right around midseason. Which means Kareem Hunt could step into a role, at least, an 8 to 12 touch role, and a player of Kareem Hunt's explosiveness and elusiveness and dynamic ability, he could be a league winner. Something nobody's talking about, knock on wood, what if Nick Chubb suffers an injury, and then all of a sudden you have Kareem Hunt stashed in your dynasty team, your best ball team, or your redraft team? Nick Chubb goes down, you have Mr. 3-down back, Kareem Hunt, coming off a suspension for a stretch run into the fantasy playoffs. I am absolutely positively buying Kareem Hunt everywhere I can, especially in leagues where his ADP is falling. Right now, Kareem Hunt's ADP at Fantasy Football Calculator, 11th pick in the 7th round. I have seen it a little bit lower. I have seen Kareem Hunt slip to the 10th round. Especially with the news that has just come out about the incident, despite the fact there's no evidence, people are still going to say, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. He's going to get suspended. He's never going to play again. Remember we were all saying about, or you all were saying that about Tyreek Hill, and now what? Probably going to get 4 games. Until we hear otherwise, we must continue to draft Kareem Hunt, anticipating what he could be, and nothing else. You could be in the draft where people are thinking like me, and they're going to get him at a value. You could be in a draft where everybody's fading him, and all of a sudden Kareem Hunt is going in the double-digit rounds, 10th round, 9th round. Why not take a flyer? I just said a couple of minutes ago, Foreman, 3rd pick in the 9th round. This is a kid who has never done anything of note on an NFL football field and riddled by injuries. Why not take Kareem Hunt over Foreman? Because when Kareem Hunt is healthy, I mean, he doesn't miss time when he plays. And we know that when Kareem Hunt plays in all 16 games, he's a top 10, top 5, 3-down running back, sitting there right around, round 8 to round 10. I am continuing to buy into Kareem Hunt. Moving on into the news a little bit. Let's see where I am. I'm sorry, I lost my place in our talking point script. Steelers running back. Here we go. James Conner told the press that he expects his 2019 role to be, and I quote, similar to his role in 2018. Wasn't it a couple of weeks ago I sat here and said, the reports that James Conner said that there's going to be a timeshare or they're going to spread the ball around. And I said, don't listen. Don't go out and sell your James Conner shares because he's saying this, because it's the offseason. James Conner is going to be the guy in the Steelers' backfield. However, what's going to derail James Conner are injuries. If James Conner, who finished as the RB6 in PPR scoring formats in 13 games last season, if he gets hurt again, then he will absolutely positively not only lose his touches, but he could lose his job to Jalen Samuel, who is more built to be that 3-down back on the Steelers. Converted tight end, Jalen Samuels, who looked pretty good when Conner went down last year. I know he got off to a shaky start, but, towards the end of the season, in the final game or two, Jalen Samuel looked like the real deal. And that's what I believe is going to derail James Conner, is injuries. A couple weeks ago, like I said, he said they're going to spread out the backfield touches pretty evenly. I don't think so. When was the last time the Steelers spread out touches in their backfield? I mean, think about it. Le'Veon Bell, and when Bell was injured or had a suspension, it was D'Angelo Williams. And D'Angelo Williams was the 3-down workhorse. Bell held out last year. James Conner was the 3-down workhorse. Why would that change now? I mean, I just don't get it. I would continue to target and draft James Conner right around his current ADP, second pick in the second round. Listen, Joe Mixon is going ahead of James Conner, and I have no arguments about it. I'm a Joe Mixon guy. I believe Joe Mixon, if there's any second round back, if there's any running back poised to break out, Joe Mixon has breakout written all over him. So yes, I would absolutely positively take Joe Mixon over James Conner. But if you ask me, am I going to take James Conner over a Dalvin Cook or a Todd Gurley right now? That's a slam dunk yes. The 1 second round running back, maybe 2, maybe you can include Nick Chubb here. But the second round back that I'm going to consider taking over James Conner is Damian Williams. And I am a Damian Williams guy. I believe he is going to be the 3-down back on the Kansas City Chiefs. They have Carlos Hyde, who is nothing more than a plotter. Carlos Hyde isn't dynamic. I believe Carlos Hyde is going to fill the Spencer Ware role, maybe get a couple of goal line touches, but that's it. I know the Chiefs drafted a couple of late-round running backs. This is Damian Williams' backfield. He played out of his mind following the Kareem Hunt suspension last season. He played out of his mind in the playoffs. And barring injury, Damian Williams is going to be one of the most productive running backs in the NFL and in fantasy football in 2019. But outside of Damian Williams and maybe Nick Chubb, James Conner is the running back I want in the second round, especially early at his ADP, second pick in the second round. Moving down the docket, Emmanuel Sanders, Broncos wide receiver, recovering from an Achilles, still believes a week 1 return is, and I quote, realistic. Per reports from Nikki, I'm going to butcher her name, Jabavala on Twitter. I'm sorry, I butchered her name. But Sanders will not commit to, and I quote, a concrete timetable for a return. But, despite being, over 30 years old, and despite suffering the Achilles tear relatively late in the year, Manny Sanders, if he plays earlier in the year, if he doesn't end up on a PUP list, talk about late round value. Manny Sanders is a steal. And he's going, where's Manny Sanders going right now in PPR leagues? Manny Sanders right now is going with the 6th pick in the 11th round, 50th wide receiver off the board. Manny Sanders was, pretty productive last year, pre-injury. He is getting an upgrade in quarterback. Yes, Joe Flacco is absolutely, positively an upgrade over Case Keenum.
He's gonna puke! He's gonna puke! He's gonna puke!
And if Manny Sanders, even if he starts off slow, let's say he doesn't open the year in a PUP, and let's say he's good to go in week 1, but maybe he's not 100% healthy, and it takes him a couple of weeks to get going. This is an 11th round, mid-11th round pick. He is going to return to the Denver Broncos, most likely as their wide receiver 1, because Cortland Sutton hasn't shown me that he is capable of being that guy yet. Deshaun Hamilton looked good, a lot of question marks. Who's Joe Flacco going to throw to? The unprovens, or is he going to target his deep threat, big play, veteran wide receiver, Emmanuel Sanders? So yeah, Manny Sanders could start slow, but once he gets acclimated with Joe Flacco, Emmanuel Sanders could be a tremendous late round value with the 6th pick in 11th round. And forget about it in dynasty leagues. He's going even later. Best ball leagues, tremendous value. I mean, this is a lottery ticket for a guy who has put up big numbers in the past. A little bit more Redskins news. Doug Williams, the team's senior vice president of player personnel, told the press determining, when to start Dwayne Haskins is going to be, and I quote, a group decision. I mean, come on. You have to figure Dwayne Haskins is going to be the week 1 starter. He is Dan Snyder and Bruce Allen's pick. That's who they wanted all along. He was an ownership pick. Why wouldn't they put him in week 1? We see this throughout the NFL now, where we see rookies opening the year as a starter. At worst, Dwayne Haskins is the starter by October. I mean, we saw it last year. I mean, Baker Mayfield, couple of games, he was a starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins. Haskins' fate could have a similar to one of Baker Mayfield's in terms of when he plays. Maybe it's Case Keenum for a couple of games, but as soon as Case Keenum looks terrible, they're going to put this rookie in and not look back. Moving ahead, Bills beat writer Mike Rodak told the press that, or is reporting because he is the press, he said that Frank Gore, Devin Singletary, they both received first-team reps at OTAs. We know that LaShawn McCoy is also going to start. He is probably going to be the starter on the team. But they're not giving Frank Gore and Devin Singletary first-team reps for nothing. Being a conspiracy theorist, maybe they're giving Gore and Singletary reps because they are trying to move LaShawn McCoy. McCoy is in a contract year. If they can find a team to eat his contract, maybe McCoy's on the move. I always have believed, I said this on a show last November or December, I didn't think LaShawn McCoy was going to be a Buffalo Bill by time 2019 week 1 rolls around. Right now, it looks like he is going to be on the team, but let's say an injury happens to a running back around the league in training camp or in the preseason. Why not pick up the phone, call the Bills, and hey, let's give you, I'll give you a 5th, 6th round pick to LaShawn McCoy. Why not? But if he remains on the Bills, I think it's going to be tough to hammer in and lock down a running back. Not only that I have McCoy, Gore, and Singletary, but they also have TJ Yeldon, who is a pretty productive, at least a pretty productive third down pass catching back in his own right, an excellent in pass production, so he could see snaps. This is going to be a timeshare backfield, but man, if you can get LaShawn McCoy at a value even later than his current, his ADP is sitting, 7th, 8th round right now. I wouldn't mind taking McCoy and hoping that he gets traded. I mean, you can get him for basically nothing. I mean, look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield, and we'll talk to them in a minute. McCoy's going 7th pick in the 8th round. What if Bruce Arians says, listen, I have nothing here. Ronald Jones is Ronald Jones. Peyton Barber, could handle a lot of carries, can't do much with them. Andre Ellington, pass catching running back. Why not call and get LaShawn McCoy to Tampa? And if I'm LaShawn McCoy, I'd probably want to play there. It's Florida, it's warm, he's at the end of his career. Why not? Great place to play, great place to end the career in an offense that could feature you in the passing game. He'd definitely be a 3-down workhorse and squeeze whatever production left out of LaShawn McCoy. That's what would happen in Tampa Bay. Even in Buffalo, however, and we talked about this on the Bounce Back running back episode with Mike. Check it out in the archives from last week. We talked about the Bills' running back situation. The Bills added a couple of significant offensive linemen. They signed Lee Smith, one of the best run-blocking tight ends in the league. They are going to try to, dig in ground-and-pound football, help out Josh Allen a little bit, play really good defense. So McCoy could have a little bit of value still. But, man, with so many, here's the cliche, with so many mouths to feed, it is tough to trust McCoy, but if he starts sliding into that 9th round, here's these 9th round running backs I keep talking about, right? Kareem Hunt could slide. You have Donta Foreman. Why not take LaShawn McCoy over Donta Foreman? I'm going to keep going back to this. These are all guys I like better than Donta Foreman. McCoy, I believe he has one productive year left. Let's see if the Buffalo Bills give it to him, or let's see if the Buffalo Bills try to get a late round pick for an aging running back who is at the end of his career. Before we wrap up the news, because we are getting to the end, I want to bring up Fantasy Football King again. I talked about them a lot on the show. Fantasy Football King is a companion consultant service for all of your fantasy football needs. We will do drafts. We will walk you through drafts. We will do one-on-one hourly consultations. We do full season league management. We do weekly pay-as-you-go, waiver wire, and league management that way. And I say we because I am a proud part of the Fantasy Football King staff. I've been doing consultations all the time. I am set up for a couple of drafts in August. We even have a full money-back guarantee if you sign up for our season-long A to Z package where we draft and we manage your team A to Z. And the best part is, it is 110% discreet, 110% full discretion. We will never reveal that you hired this service. We will never reveal that we are helping you out. This way, let's say you're in a league, you're in a high-stakes league, first time at it, and you believe you're overmatched, you bring one of the guys in. Bring in the ringer. Let's say you're in a league with a bunch of your friends, and it's it's about pride, and you never won, and these guys are ragging on you. Bring in the ringer. Bring in the real NFL guru. Go to fantasyfootballking.com, fill out a contact form, and if you want me to be your guy, just ask for me, and it will absolutely positively get to me. On top of all that, the owner, the fantasy football king himself, Patrick Murphy, is going to be coming on this show. We're going to talk about the service. We are going to talk about strategy. We are going to probably do a mock draft when he comes on. Look for that next week after the holiday. It's going to be me. It's going to be Patrick Murphy. He's been on the great Roto Underworld podcast with Matt Kelly, the Podfather. I'm super excited to have him on as a guest. I am super excited to be working with him to bring you guys fantasy football championships in 2019 and moving forward. Let's wrap up this news. Eagles running back, more running back news. Deuce Staley told the press that he's pleased with the performance of Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. Both of these backs are new to the offense, off-season acquisitions from the Bears and the draft. I believe Jordan Howard is going to be the early down guy. We could see Miles Sanders get some third down and passing down touches. But this is very much a timeshare backfield. However, I know they have Smallwood and Clement. This is very much a two-headed monster backfield. I don't think, barring injury, we are going to see a 3 and 4 man mix as we've seen in the past. Forget about Josh Adams. I don't even know if he makes the team. Same thing with Boston Scott. It's Miles Sanders and it's Jordan Howard. They are the only two running backs I am touching from the Philadelphia Eagles in 2019. I don't think it's close. A little bit more Bucs news, running back news. Greg Auman, long-time Buccaneers beat writer. Greg Auman told the press, reports, Peyton Barber is, and I quote, certainly likely to outrush Ronald Jones. And I know that we have seen Ronald Jones. He is being talked up. And Mike Hoff, my podcast partner on our Bounce Back running back episode, is starting to buy in a Rojo a little bit, and I just can't do it. I can't do it because of how it worked out last year in his rookie campaign. It's not like the Buccaneers added a big-time running back. It's Rojo and it's Peyton Barber again. And when the longtime beat writer who knows this team intimately is saying Barber is going to outproduce Ronald Jones, to me it says everything we've heard, all the good and the positive we've heard about Ronald Jones is coach speak. It's a smoke screen. It's hogwash. Ronald Jones, his ADP right now, too high for my blood, 4th pick in the 8th round. If you're going to take a shot, and it's really a dart throw, whether you're taking Barber or Ronald Jones, a dart throw, I'm going to take the late round dart throw, Peyton Barber, 12th pick in the 11th round, fringe 12th round pick. So many unknowns, so many question marks, so why not take the dart throw at the later round pick? Because why spend an 8th rounder when you can get a Jordan Howard or a LaShawn McCoy in the 8th round, or a Kareem Hunt or a Miles Sanders, all safer options than Ronald Jones right now? I'd rather get Barber in the, end the 11th, early 12th. Things can change. Training camp can happen, and we could finally see Ronald Jones look good. Because there's going to be cameras, there's going to be reporters. We will have more clarity. Last year in training camp is when Ronald Jones buried himself. If Ronald Jones looks better at camp, then it will change my tune. But right now, it's Peyton Barber or bust in a Buccaneers backfield. Steelers wide receivers coach Darryl Drake is praising Dante Moncrief for how quickly he's picking up the offense. Are you kidding me? Are we really still going to do this with Dante Moncrief? Because I feel like Dante Moncrief is another one of those players. Every year there's a ton of hype. He had one pretty good year, especially touchdown-wise with Andrew Luck and the Colts, but that was like 2015. And then he had the injuries and the luck injuries with the Colts. And then even last year in Jacksonville, Moncrief's going to be this big thing. And Moncrief still looked like Moncrief. And now he's with the Steelers. And there's all these vacated targets. And there's no more Antonio Brown. No more Martavis Bryant. I cannot possibly buy into all of this Dante Moncrief hype. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that he is not a value at his current ADP, because he is, if you take it all in consideration. But I would temper expectations. Ninth pick in the 11th round, Dante Moncrief going right behind James Washington. Both of them are going right behind Emmanuel Sanders. Curtis Samuel going in the 11th round as well. Anthony Miller going in the 12th. Anthony Miller had, 6-7 touchdowns in his rookie year. Slot receiver in an offense where the quarterback sometimes has issues distributing to the football to his outside receivers, which means the slot receiver and the tight end in the Bears offense with Mitchell Trubisky, they are gold. I'm probably taking Anthony Miller over Dante Moncrief or James Washington, for that matter, 100% of the time. A little bit later, I'll take Devin Funchess, who is getting an upgraded offense, upgraded quarterback, no longer the top option, which means he is going to get, secondary coverage. He's no longer going to command the top coverage like he did in Carolina. Talk about big touchdown upside. I'm taking Devin Funchess almost 100% of the time over Dante Moncrief. I just can't buy into the hype with Dante Moncrief. I just can't do it. I said it before, I'll say it again. I believe Vance McDonald is going to be the second second in line for targets on the Steelers. Juju is going to be number one, which means I believe Vance McDonald is going to be the second, finish 2019 second in targets on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As far as which receiver is going to break out, it could be the rookie. It could be Washington. It could be Moncrief. It could be Ryan Switzer. I believe outside of McDonald and Juju Smith-Schuster and possibly James Conner or whatever running backs in there, I think there could be a vast distribution in targets amongst Steelers wide receivers not named Juju Smith-Schuster. That'll do it for today's show. If you're listening to us right now in podcast format, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Player FM, Google Podcasts, and especially you Apple Podcast users or any user of a podcast platform that allows you the opportunity to leave us a 5-star rating and review, please subscribe to the FF Faceoff. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review. And like I said, we notice everything. Just last week, we saw about 5-star ratings and 5-star reviews, with some kind words telling everyone why you love the show and why we are the best damn fantasy football podcast on the planet, where fantasy meets reality come in, and we thank you for it. Why do we need these things? Because the more subscriptions, ratings, and reviews that we get, the more people we can reach, and in the end, we want to help each and every one of you win fantasy football championships, dominate your leagues, and absolutely, positively crush the competition. We will maintain the culture of winning we built here in the FF Faceoff for over or close to 3 years since our inception, and Mike and I have something planned for our 3-year anniversary coming up, and over 200 episodes. Tune in tomorrow where Mike and I will be doing our SFB9 mock draft live on the show. If we don't, that means Mike's health is acting up again. Let's hope, not even for the show. Let's hope for Mike's sake everything is worked out this time. Until then, my name is Anthony Cervino. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Follow the show at the FF Faceoff, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Now's the time to find your color, your paint, and everything to get started during red, white, and blue savings at the Home Depot. Transforming your room is easier than ever. With the best deals online and in-store, you can confidently select your color and the tools for your next paint project. Get a colorful new experience and the right paint for the right price. Save $10 on 1 gallon and $40 off 3 and 5 gallons for a limited time only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Limit 25 gallons per household. See store for details.
The New Jersey Transit Police Department reminds you that we all need to work together to keep our transit system safe. Your attention is our most valuable asset. If you ride the train or bus, if you live or work near a station, be alert and aware of your surroundings. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. New Jersey Transit urges you to help us keep our transit system safe. Report suspicious activity to 1-888-TIPS-NJT or text your report to NJTPD.